Hey guys, it's Rick. Welcome. First time doing a video like this, but I was scrolling through my YouTube library yesterday and I saw that Paul from Team APS made a video. This is on Team APS Plus, which is a separate channel from Team APS, but they're a well-known group of Yugitubers. And Paul had made a video, looks like he's doing a series of videos where he's just kind of sitting down and sharing his thoughts on things. And he made a video called Where Yu-Gi-Oh! Speed Duels Went Wrong. So I know that in the past, Team APS did a video about the problem with speed duels, and since then I know that they have played some speed duel, and they certainly recognize the format. And out of all the YouTubers out there, I don't follow too many traditional ones, but Team APS I love for the skits, and I have a lot of respect for them and for Paul. But I saw that he just released this video called "Where Yu-Gi-Oh! Speed Duels Went Wrong," which is you click into it to think that it's going to be kind of a bashing video. And I wanted to do a live reaction to this and watch it for the first time and just kind of share my thoughts on Paul's thoughts. And I think that overall, hopefully I'm going into this video hoping that it's not a bashing, that it's a, it's got some, he's going to point out some pretty common flaws that I can also speak to, but hopefully it's not as bad and doesn't create a negative perspective of Speed Duel, which is a format that we're trying to grow and improve the community of. So without further ado, let's go ahead and play, and I'm just going to share my thoughts throughout.
Okay, hey guys, it's Paul. So today I wanted to talk about speed duels and where I think it all went wrong. So
Okay.
I guess I should probably preface this by saying that I actually like speed duels for what
Okay.
they are, and this isn't meant to be like a hate thing. And I'm
Okay.
not saying that speed duels are like
Yeah. So right away, I love that preface. That preface is that he doesn't hate Speed Duel, and to his point, we've seen Team APS play with the box. They did something, I think, New Year's Eve, and the perspective that I want to shed and hope that people take away from this is that the format is fun and lighter. It's not to be as seriously taken as something like the traditional or advanced format. Certainly, we have our own meta, and we have our own community and our own group of people that are really good at the game. But certainly, I would hope that it doesn't come across as a negative failed format. Let's keep going.
necessarily dead, although I do think that they probably don't have much longer of a lifespan. I'll get into
Okay.
that a little bit later.
Okay,
So
be interested to
I
hear
was
that one,
writing
but,
down some
we can
notes
talk
as to
about
like
that.
what I liked about speed duels, what I don't like, because I don't want this to just be a bashing video. Again, speed duels are
Okay.
cool. These are just reasons why I feel it didn't take off and succeed in the way that I'm sure Konami hoped, and maybe even how that could be addressed, at least in the future, if there is a future. We'll see. Okay, so
Okay.
first we'll start with the things that I think speed duels did well.
Oh, I like this. Okay, we're
And
starting
the
with the good
first
stuff.
thing is that it's really simplified, and that's a good thing. So basically, there's 3 monster card zones, 3 spell and trap card zones, 4,000 life points, and your starting hand size is a little bit smaller. The strategies themselves are a little bit simpler, and of course, there's not pendulum monsters don't exist,
Right.
synchros exist,
Very basic.
link monsters certainly.
Very basic overview of Speed Duels. Probably just shedding some light on people that aren't familiar with the format. But yeah, he's absolutely right. I said time and time again that this format was used as a way for lapsed players that maybe don't know what Ixies, pendulums, links are to get back into Yu-Gi-Oh! Without feeling so intimidated. So I think that he speaks to that pretty well here.
They're just fusion monsters. And, deck sizes are smaller as well. Everything is sort of simplified. I actually think that for that reason, speed duels can be great for teaching new players.
Yep.
It's great for getting in a quick game with your friends.
Hope to see that when
That
locals
can be a
come
really
back
good
for
time.
sure.
And also, I do like aspects of it, like the balancing. I find the balancing is extremely it's pretty tight, right? Because it's a bunch of low power decks and low power strategies. They don't give you access to great cards. You get access to decent cards that can be used in pretty cool
Okay.
ways. So instead of giving you MST or Cosmic Cyclone, that's sort of a one-trick answer to every single
We have Cosmic
spell and trap
Cyclone.
you don't like, you instead
So he's saying we don't have broken single cards, and he's right for the most part. The broken things that we've seen in the previous format, thinking about Dark Moth, it was a couple cards and the skill that synergized. Even going back to Nightmare Sonic Blast with Serpent Knight Dragon, so it was never one card that was broken. It was always kind of like a synergy. And he's right; they're compact. It's easy to make a compact deck where you're always seeing the synergy. We're seeing that today with Magnet Warriors and XYZ. We do have Cosmic Cyclone now, but it's not too much of a meta shaker. So I think that that's fine. But yeah, we haven't seen really any monsters that maybe a couple monarchs now where you get it on the field and it's over, like Jinzo. Although there are ways to get around that. So, but yeah,
And, get something like Twister or Dust Tornado,
yeah,
which have ups and downs and aren't perfect solutions or completely optimal solutions to every problem. And I think that's really cool. You also don't get like just immediate monster removal. There's things like maybe Order to Charge, for
order to
instance, that
charge. We have offerings to
is a
Doom,
way of
which
getting
isn't
rid of
as good
monsters, but
anymore.
it's tricky.
We have
And
a
I
lot of ways
like
to deal with
that. I
special
like
summons as
lower
well.
power
So
level stuff.
getting
I
more of
like
that.
deck building decisions that have to be made. So instead of just running 3 MST, you might not want to just run 3 Twister because
Now it's three
Twister's not as
breaker.
good or as flexible as MST. And I think that's really neat. Um, I also found the strategies were pretty cool. Usually each deck would have a fairly linear strategy. It was never something that you would accomplish in like the very first turn or even the
Sure.
second turn. So duels are slower, there's more of a tug of war, but they were also fast, hence the speed duel moniker, and that like because you had fewer life points and because your strategy is straightforward, it's easy to slip in a few games with friends. That's actually something that we did a lot.
Yeah.
When we would play speed duels, if we ever like, let's say we're gonna be going to get lunch in like 20 minutes, that's more than enough time to get in a quick speed duel match, and that's fun.
Yeah, so speed duels are fast in a sense. If you play on the kitchen table, they're always going to be fast. And we have a lot of decks right now that are kind of tug of war-ish. Um, we have a lot of decks that can right now come from Battle City Box that can totally obliterate you. But I remember even thinking about like when it first came out, and we were looking at like Amazoness versus Dragon Caller, and it was really kind of a tug of war. It could really shift in one person's favor very quickly, but for the most part, there were a lot of slap fights. Thinking about even going to like ectoplasmic fortification, zombie deck, and building those, Dinosaur Kingdom, things of that nature. Getting a little faster, certainly, but yeah, it's a good fun tug of war, and it's never too complicated, or it was never too complicated.
Fun. It's also quick to throw the decks together, and if you're trying to teach somebody how to play speed duels, it's just quick to pick up.
Yep.
I think that those simpler rules also help with that. It honestly, in my opinion, made speed duels sometimes feel like a Yu-Gi-Oh! On training wheels. And I don't say that in a bad way. I say
Okay.
that in that like it could be a good way to introduce people into the game without overwhelming them.
Agreed.
A
Or lapsed
little
players that
random
haven't played
side
since like
story: we
2010,
before COVID,
2012.
by the way, did this cool. There was this cool like Yu-Gi-Oh tournament at a local library that we went to, and I went with Alex and Alec and Trell, and we were sort of guests there because they saw that we had a YouTube channel and all that stuff, and so they were kids and they were learning how to play Yu-Gi-Oh, and they had different decks, and for some of them we were using speed duels as basically a way to teach them how to play. And it was cool. You have like flip effect monsters and equip spells, and those are still relevant. And like the average strength of a
The
monster is
equips.
not super high.
You don't
Text
see
is
that
really
as
simple to
often.
understand. All in all, those were great things. And the last thing too is
One other thing I'll say to that is it's I agree that Speed Duel's great to kind of teach young kids, and I think the Rush Duel will be the same thing as it comes out. Um, but Speed Duel isn't like the kiddie pool necessarily, while Advanced Yu-Gi-Oh and the Yu-Gi-Oh TCG is the Adult Swim. Um, I think that it's great to get kids into, and there's a lot more kind of younger kids in my life. I have a son now, and it's going to be great to teach him eventually. But I think that also there are people that take it to the absolute limit and are really, really nasty and wild with Speed Duel. So there is certainly a competitive aspect that we're seeing evolve, especially with the Battle City box. So I think it's definitely an all-around product. It's been
it's just that
really
skill
successful
cards were
in that
fun.
aspect.
Skill cards kind of add a little different, an extra layer of dimension to the game. You get to pick a skill. Admittedly, some speed duel skill cards can be a little bit ambiguous to understand, like since they aren't cards that can be like chained to, and
Exactly. Yes, skills can't be chained to. So we see that problem and that miscommunication confusion a lot. Just because skill is like it's not a quick effect. It's usually something that's activated in the main phase or like it's a constant thing throughout the duel. And that's probably the biggest learning curve is how skills work and how different skills work, especially the not chaining to. And there are certain cards now. There are, I think, like it's Jinzo, for example, is a skill that came out in the Battle City box that doesn't let Jinzo be affected by skill effects. So now we're seeing skills counter other skills.
weird stuff like that. But generally speaking, those were all some of my favorite parts about speed duels. A few other small things that not as many people know about speed duels is that it did introduce a few exclusive rarities for certain cards.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, there's a super rare copy of King of the Skull Servants because that is a speed duel strategy that
Tournament
you can
pack. Yep.
play. And
I think that was like
King
40
of the
bucks
Skull
last time I
servants,
checked.
up until this point, had never had a foil printing. So Speed Duels introduced its
I
first
didn't know that. That's
foil
interesting.
printing for
And
a
Skull Servants
really
has always been like
popular
a
kind of
cult
iconic Yu-Gi-Oh
cult
card.
deck.
And there were a few other
People are
instances
always
of
playing
this,
it.
so I thought that's just something that's kind of nice to mention. Speed Duels got a number of products. They would get a new product release every 2 or 3 months, sort of like the real game. And there were also
More like
some
6 or 7 now.
decks. And then, of course, most recently, there was the Speed Duel Battle City box, which I think was a pretty good product. Anyway, though,
Here we go.
all this isn't to say that Speed Duels went particularly well. So that's
Okay.
kind of what we're more concerned about. Where Speed Duels went wrong. So, first things first, it's too much like Duel Links. And while I don't personally find this to be like a cardinal sin, I think from an accessibility and interest perspective, it was definitely a weakness.
So from accessibility, I get that. I think that it's not like Duel Links because Duel Links does have a much larger card pool, and are doing tons of things that Speed Duel isn't doing. Speed Duel is still relatively simple. We're talking about season 1 and 2 of the anime for the most part of cards. Um, but I think that accessibility, I get it. Duel Links is on your phone. You play it on PC. A lot of people play Duel Links. I personally like Speed Duels because I like the physical card game. I like going to locals and play. I'm not going to go to a card shop and then be on my phone across from somebody else or what have you. I think that was one of the biggest draws was the physical card game. There obviously they have that has challenges in itself trying to move it to physical, especially in the past year. But so I guess I can see the accessibility thing. But for people like myself who love the physical aspect of the card game, I'm enjoying that. I haven't played Duel Links in probably 8 months, because the card pool is so different, and I really just am not motivated to play online. That's why I even try and I struggle to play dueling book tournaments. I'll play remote stuff, but I'm struggling to play like dueling book because I just love holding the cards in my hand.
Anytime I talk about Speed Duels in a positive or negative light or whatever, most people just say something like, "Oh, isn't that Duel Links?"
Yeah,
Or "Why wouldn't I just
you
play
hear that a
Duel
lot
Links?"
at locals.
And they're
Well,
right.
this is Duel Links, right?
It just
Kind of.
doesn't really make a lot of sense to invest in Speed Duels, which is something I'll kind of get into in a second. But it doesn't make as much sense to invest in Speed Duels and play Speed Duels when Duel Links has very similar rules. Limited monster card zones, smaller deck sizes, fewer life points, and of course skills. But like it's on your phone, it's on your smartphone. You can carry it with you. You can play online. You can play for free or something.
Free-ish.
And it just kind of
Probably
means
play
like,
for a
why
good
would I
5 hours
play
before
Speed
it
Duels?
starts saying,
And the
"Hey,
next
you
issue
should buy
too
stuff."
is that you're just revisiting old cards, but you're being sold those cards again. That's something that I know a lot of people did not like. Speed Duels doesn't introduces new skill cards, though those are really just repeats of stuff that was in Duel Links too. But more importantly, all the cards in Speed Duels are just older Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and you're being resold them.
I actually just did a video like 2 days ago called, what is it? Can you use Yu-Gi-Oh TCG cards for Speed Duel? And yes, the direct answer is no. You need to buy the Speed Duel copy. But what I've learned, essentially in a nutshell, that video, what I've learned is that you can go to locals and you can use the OG copies of cards, and it's Speed Duel. No one's gonna really give you a strike for that. I would recommend I use the translation policy similar to like you got the translation of a foreign card to use the foreign card. If you're gonna use an OG card, you should have the Speed Duel copy somewhere on you in case they ask for it. But honestly, kitchen table and locals hasn't been a problem. So I get those people that are like, I don't want to buy it again. This is stupid. I get you. Speed Duels is very inexpensive, but I get that argument.
It also isn't helped by the fact that Speed Duels, you can only use Speed Duel cards for playing Speed Duels. So like here's a great example. Sphere Karibo.
You can use it in the
In
TCG.
Speed Duels, Sphere Karibo is a pretty potent card, at least it was early on, for being able to like stop attacks, and it's like a hand trap sort of, and it can just be
I see
a
what he
really
means.
powerful card. It's useful for a
It
lot
just
of
doesn't
decks.
translate
And
to
it
the
also
meta
helps a lot with the Relinquish deck, which was a
in
really
Yu-Gi-Oh.
strong deck in Speed Duels. In the Speed Duel rarity, which is the one you have to use if you're using a Sphere Karibo in this format, Sphere Karibo is printed as an ultra rare card.
Yep.
And as we know, Sphere Karibo itself isn't printed as like a common in a number of different instances. But if you wanted to use it in Speed Duels, you had to have a Speed Duels Sphere Karibo. Which
And it's
is
been reprinted
the
as
same
common, by the
identical
way.
Card,
They have
just with
reprinted
that
it
Speed
already
Duel moniker down there.
in the Match of the Millennium deck.
And that card carry like a $10, $15 price tag, as high as $20 at a small point in time. And if you need 3 of them to compete, why would you spend like anything more than pennies for a card that
Yeah,
exists in the TCG.
I get that. That goes back to the video that I did about, yes, you can probably get away with using OG cards in Speed Duel, but I get it. And $20, that was the highest point. It was the most expensive card in the format at one point. It was like 15, $20. Still, you think about cards that are worth over 100 in advanced, and it just doesn't seem that big of a deal. But I get it because people are seeing Speed Duels as like, this is the kiddie side event, and I'm here. I'm here for Yu-Gi-Oh, but I got knocked out earlier. I got something else, and I'm waiting for something else. And sure, I'll play Speed Duel. And so people in that mindset think, well, I'm not paying more than $5 for this deck. It's just, I'm not even here for this. So why should I buy if I want to be competitive? Of course, I'm going to be competitive because I'm here for advanced Yu-Gi-Oh. I just have this competitive mindset I'm in right now. Of course, I want to win Speed Duel if I play. And why do I need to buy 3 Sphere Karibos at $15 a pop? Well, first thing I will say is that it has been reprinted as a common in a structure deck. I know that that's not the principle of the issue. So I get that, certainly. It goes back to what I said about, people had the distaste for needing to buy the Speed Duel copy of a card again, especially, if they want to be competitive. Some of these are expensive. But really, it does just depend on who you're playing with in the locals. Like I said, I entered that remote YCS for New York Comic Con, and I used OG Zomas and Nightmare Wheels, no problem. So, I mean, I had them, so there's that. Obviously, I bought it anyway, but I understand that. I certainly understand that.
You already, and you already maybe have copies laying around in a box. It just, you see the problem, and that sort of amplifies people's issue with being resold old products again.
It's a cash
Like,
grab.
these are
Well,
just Yu-Gi-Oh cards
Speed
with the
Duel is
same
much more popular
effects,
to be a
the
huge cash
same
grab,
everything, just
and that's why they
resold
changed the art for
Speed
Rush
Duel
Duel.
cards.
So it's like
So
you
people
really
didn't really
can't
like
use it.
that. Also, another thing is I don't think that the products really stood out very much. This is, I mean, this might be a bit of a nitpick, but I feel like it just, Speed Duel products always got overshadowed by regular
Oh, for
products.
sure. Yeah,
The
we had
set
to keep it
names
on the
always sound like
calendar,
they could be a normal
or else
set.
we
Like
forget.
Fury from the Deep, I think was one. Arena of
Attack from the
Lost
Deep,
Souls, I
Arena of
want to
Lost
say was
Souls.
the name of it.
So the format in 2019, they started with traditional boxes: Arena of Lost Souls, Attack from the Deep, Scars of Battle, Trials of the Kingdom. That was all in 2019. And then in between, they had some structure decks. Match Millennium and Twisted Nightmares was most recent, which was last year, about a year ago now. That was May of last year. And then those were all, they've all been done before. We saw booster boxes and structure decks in Yu-Gi-Oh, and so sure, they're loading up and adding to the card pool of this format, but it was never really something that stood out. And I think that they really hit the nail on the head with the Battle City box recently, as one of the only, if not the only, besides the Battle City Yu-Gi-Oh things that was like, I don't know, years and years ago. It was the only really kind of draft style box that they had released. So that put it on the map for sure. And I think that that's generating a lot of interest. But I agree that booster boxes and structure decks, it's nothing new. They were exciting to people that were really into the game, and they were important to the meta and evolving the format, certainly. But I get it that it certainly wasn't anything new until the Battle City box.
Like a product. And basically, they just all felt like watered down main series sets. So as we've established, they just had old cards that you've already seen in Yu-Gi-Oh, just repackaged as like a new set, and it didn't feel exciting when a Speed Duel product released, and that kind of sucks. I think they did a good job with most of the Speed Duel starter decks that they made. Those were actually pretty cool. The Rex and Weevil ones were cool. The ones at the start were pretty cool. The
Ultimate Predators.
Merrick versus Bakura and Yugi versus Pegasus decks were pretty cool. We actually had a little mini house tournament to ourselves for a couple of hours, like with Larry and Alex
Those
and Alec
structure
and
decks were
myself,
fun to
and we
play
played them. It was
straight
a lot
up.
of fun. But I think that the sets were not very interesting, and then they sort of stopped releasing the sets for a really long time.
There was a
Took a
gap.
huge
Yeah.
gap, and then they released Speed Duel Battle City box.
They'd like put all their
Which kind
effort
of
into
leads me
this
to
one
think that Speed
box.
Duel Battle City box might just be the last Speed Duel product we get, because it had a lot of.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing a standalone video on this, but unfortunately, I hate to say this because this is a lot of my content, but I'm afraid that they put their best stuff into this last box and then that's it. It's really hard to tell. I'm like 30%, I'm 70% confident that there will be more, but there's a piece of me that thinks that this is it, especially with Matt Bell leaving, who was the organizer for Speed Duel. I think he departed in September from Konami, and he was very hands-on, very active with the community, and then we kind of heard some silence since then. Um, And it really does seem like the Battle City box was the grand finale. You know, put everything that we had thought about for future releases into this one box. $30. Let's get it done. Let's get it out. So I hope that's not the case. I think that the next thing they would do would be a booster box. I think they go back to booster boxes. Those tend to make more money, I believe. And I think that so when the structure decks came out in May of last year, it wasn't until mid-July that we got word about the Battle City box coming. So if we're looking at that time frame of information, Battle City box came out end of November for Europe, and I think it was the 10th of December for US and North America. So I think that we're probably about a month out from new information, hopefully. So if it goes into March and April and we don't have any more news about Speed Duel stuff, then it might be it might be the end. I hope not. I hope not. I have a strong belief that they already have this ball rolling so well that I think that it would be a missed opportunity to stop it. Especially because I think the Battle City box is gathering more popularity. It's the first real standout product, as Paul mentioned, that the other ones weren't too standoutish. And the structure decks were cool. The boxes looked like all the other boxes for Advanced Yu-Gi-Oh! I get that. But the Battle City box, I think, is drumming up a lot of interest. So hopefully it's not the end.
Power creep, and while it was fun to play and introduce a load of new cards, I just don't know where they're going to go from here. To my knowledge, Speed Duels hasn't done well. And that leads me into my last thing, which is Speed Duels didn't really get much like local tournament support. At least not that I saw. Now I heard that there were like sort of Speed Duel days, like maybe some exclusive mat had come out or something like that.
Yeah, so there are. First of all, I'll say from my experience, my locals, when I lived in South Florida, when Speed Duels came out, South Florida is a very populated area. A lot of Magic, a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh, a lot of Pokemon players. That local didn't have a Speed Duel tournament unless I showed up with my 5 friends, because we would play at a buddy's house. That's how I got into it. It was this group of 6, 7 guys that just played consistently, and that's where a lot of my content that was on the table came from, because we just had all these guys that play consistently. But yeah, no, we met 2 guys that entered separately, and we quickly absorbed them into our friend group. But we had a local where they wouldn't have Speed Duel on the calendar. We had to show up on a Saturday or a Sunday. It was 6 of us, and say, we have 6 people here that want to play Speed Duel. Can we do a tournament? And they had the tournament packs, and they said, okay, let's do a tournament. And sometimes we'd do 3. We really just we brought the tournament to them. I was talking to a Vault the other day, and he actually mentioned, he's in Toronto, Canada, and he mentioned that his locals, I guess Toronto's a bigger scene, his locals would have like 16 to 20 people. So it really depends on where you are. Certainly, I get it. Like, you're looking at Midwest United States, you're probably not getting anybody. Maybe you're the only person into it. I can understand why might be hard to retain the interest in the format if you don't have people to play with and you're not really into doing online. And now the past year has made it more difficult for locals. But I get it. I will say that Speed Duel has been more successful. If it's in the shadow of Yu-Gi-Oh, it looks like it wasn't a success. But you think about all the other card games that aren't the big 3, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, and I think that Speed Duel has held water for sure. We saw a Transformers card game die. People are still playing Dragon Ball, Vanguard, things like that, but I don't see those numbers as consistently either. I think that they're all in the same boat, where it's really just a few people here and there. Maybe Dragon Ball is a little more popular, but and also Digimon coming out recently. I think that they're rebooting that. It'll be interesting to see, the draw for that, especially in the time that it's being released. So I think that in the shadow of Yu-Gi-Oh, Speed Duel looks like, from a local standpoint, somewhat of a failure. But I think that compared to a lot of other card games that try and go out there and stay afloat, I think that Speed Duel is successful. And obviously the Yu-Gi-Oh and Konami brand have something to do about that. But I think that, it was to be expected, but I think that Speed Duel is doing rather well there.
Or a Speed Duel OTS pack equivalent, but I think there were only 2 of them, and my local card shop didn't get any local card shops in the area.
If you know the
I never
tournament
heard of
pack,
them getting
then
any.
so
there's no one really got those. Like,
sometimes
OTS
they'll
cards.
do
Nobody
packs as
got
prize
play
support,
mats.
but tournament packs really the big
I
draw.
saw that they did giant cards at some YCS events in 2019, so that was neat.
Giant cards are cool, mostly a lot of Europe.
But since there never really felt like there was like a Speed Duel competitive circuit, like a route to doing well in Speed Duels, it ultimately would always just be like you playing with your friends, and that's fine for casual fun. But if you ever want to get people invested, you do typically need some sort of way to reward them for like feeling like they do well in tournaments and stuff like that.
Yeah, gotta have the
tournament. It's hard to get people,
especially TP1. That was a great one. The Blue Eyes is still like $130 or something like that.
Not slower. It's like less sophisticated, but because of all the other issues, people would rather just play normal Yu-Gi-Oh, or they just play Duel Links, and so it just Speed Duels found itself in this weird spot, and I don't think it was marketed very well. I don't think many people even knew Speed Duels
I
existed. And
agree.
like I said,
I
most
found
people
out through
just
word of
said, "Isn't
mouth.
that the Duel Links thing?"
Wasn't
Or like,
marketed.
"Yeah, what is that?" You find these products sitting at WalMarts and Targets all the time. Whenever we do Larry in the Hole, they're just there. No one buys them. All in all, it's kind of just a dead product. But the worst part, and the sort of final thing, is Rush Duel's existence. So Rush Duels
Interesting.
obviously already exist in Japan. You know, the things that go with Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens and all that. They're going to be coming out in the United States at some point. We've seen like patents and trademarks
Yep.
and all that stuff being
Rush
filed.
Duel stuff is coming.
Rush Duel, Speed Duel. Clearly, those
Yeah.
two things.
They are spreading themselves a little thin with that. It seems like it's the same community, very similar community that's into Speed Duels into Rush Duel, and so we'll be interested to see how that kind of affects the community and the fan base. Is it going to tear it in half? Are there going to be people to play both? I know there are people out there that play all three, but to Paul's point earlier about the products in Walmart, yeah, I can imagine that there were people that bought it thinking it was regular Yu-Gi-Oh and didn't realize it was Speed Duel. Like I'm sure that somebody has that story. Um, so it's always going to be in the shadow of the TCG. But to my previous point, I do think that it is holding much more water than some other TCGs that we've seen struggle recently. So I get it. Advance is always going to be the good one. Speed Duel is kind of the kiddie pool. But I think that it has a lot of things going for it, especially with the Battle City box.
Um, Sound very similar and would just confuse people, and that's part of why I think that they're probably just going to axe Speed Duels, and that's a shame. I think that they did a good job with making it fun, but not a good enough job of making it feel accessible or rewarding or unique, maybe would even be a better way to put that. But still, I will say I like Speed Duels. I played a lot of different Speed Duel decks. I remember playing the Blue Eyes deck, the Relinquish deck. I played the low level flip summon magician strategy. I played
That's a good
Keith's
one.
machine strategy. We all built a lot of different Speed Duel decks, and they were a lot of fun when we were playing. And I wanted this to do well. I just think Konami kind of dropped the ball, and this is where we are. So, anyways, that's the video on Speed Duels. Let me know what.
Yeah, I mean, with Matt Bell leaving, who was the one guy behind Speed Duel leaving in September, I can understand the Speed Duel fell by the wayside. I think that they rectified that really well with the release of the Battle City box. Although that I know that that was in progress when he was still there, but I get it that it seems like it's like remember Blizzard has World of Warcraft and then eventually a couple of years ago they released World of Warcraft Classic and everyone was really into that for a bit and now I don't actually know if people are still playing that as much, but I can understand that Speed Duel is kind of like, hey, let's just it's like think of like GOAT format or one of those old formats, but it's actually officially branded. Um, so I can understand that, and you got the thing about the people not wanting to buy the cards again. I get it, and also it sounds like Paul and the Team APS crew have had some problems with getting tournament packs at their locals, which is I've been lucky enough to have locals that have tournament packs. They just needed the people, and we had the people because we wanted to see the format succeed. So all in all, it wasn't necessarily a bash. I think that he said a lot of things that we knew. Um, but the biggest thing, the biggest question out there is what's going to happen with Rush Duel? Is that coming in? And is that going to replace Speed Duel in Konami's eyes? And also, are we going to see more Speed Duel product? Because right now we're kind of hanging in the balance. The box is out. Everyone was really excited about the Battle City box. Now what? So I hope you guys enjoyed this reaction. Like I said, this is the first time I did something like this, but I saw Paul's video and I really liked the kind of setting he did. I noticed that he did a lot of videos like these, kind of in a string, and I love to hear his thoughts and the rest of the Team APS's thoughts. So hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll catch you later. Thanks.